Do not move to Houston, Texas until you not only know, but understand these 5 things about Houston, Texas. And you're not going to want to miss number 5 because that is the reason that I hear the most people complain about. And honestly, it is the reason why a lot of people avoid Houston, Texas. But let's go ahead and jump into it right now. Okay, so item number 1 that you need to not only know, but research is how diverse Houston is. Houston, Texas is a massive city, and with massive cities comes a lot of people, and a lot of people opens up the opportunity for different cultures, different ethnicities, just so many people, okay? And with that comes different cultures. And why this is important is because when you're buying a home, it is the largest financial decision that you are ever going to make. I'm not saying you don't want to buy a home in a place like Chinatown or East End or Montrose, but with that, you just want to be educated. I want all of my clients to not only know, but be educated with facts, right? Almost every single person that reaches out to me to move right here to Houston, Texas, which reminds you, I get those phone calls every single day. When they reach out to me, one of the most common things I hear from people, it's not that big of a deal, but I do hear it almost every single day, is they want to be in a place that's diverse. And that's hard because all of Houston is extremely diverse, not just any itty bitty communities like Grand Central Park or the Highlands or just the whole city is super diverse. So it's super important to be well educated on that because places like East End, you have a lot more of a Hispanic culture there. And, and there's other places. I'm not going to go through and name all of them because the list is long. But there are other places in Houston that are more culturally diverse than other places. So that's just something you want to be aware of, right? With that, you also have things that you are going to want to do, right? On the weekends, you're going to want to get out, you're going to want to explore. And honestly, I see this as a good thing, but Houston is a super diverse place. And because of that, we have so many different festivals, so many different things for you to do, from festivals to museums. And, let's get into that a little bit. One of the most common things right here in the Houston, Texas area that people not only go to, but flock to, it is just so popular, is the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, which, if you don't know, takes place over a 3-week time period, and they do a lot of different things within it. But if that's not your thing and that's not something you're interested in, Houston has other options, other things to offer you, like the Houston International Festival, which is also known as iFest, and that takes course over a 2-weekend time period. I've never been to that, and honestly, I don't plan on going to that. But if that's your thing, then that's your thing. And I can stay on this. I can name off every single festival that happens year after year here in Houston, Texas, but we'd be here all day. Okay, so number 2, which is the most common thing that I hear the most people talk about Houston, Texas, is just, it blows my mind. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. But before I tell you what it is, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you know when I post content. Now, number 2 is going to be your cost of living. Before you make that move, because buying a house is a very large financial purchase, cost of living is something that you should know before you ever, it's probably one of the first things you should be looking at, right? So with that, there are a few pros and cons to the cost of living in the Houston, Texas area. The first major pro that I really want to point out to you is all of Texas, not just Houston, Texas, but all of Texas. And it's the state income tax. The state of Texas does not have state taxes. And there are a few other cities or states, not cities, states, that do not have state income tax, but Texas is one of them. And that is a reason why people move right here to this great state. But with that comes a con, and that is the property taxes. So we don't have a state income tax, but we do have property taxes. And the other side of this is that a lot of people, majority of people, say we have a expensive property tax percentage. And I can't necessarily disagree with them, okay? I've seen pretty high property taxes here in the Houston, Texas area, but I've also seen some low property taxes, such as a 1.625 property tax, which, by the way, you can't tell me I'm not right because that's what my property taxes are. That was something that was important to me and my wife when we moved. So you have this great thing with no income taxes, but you do have property taxes. So it kind of balances itself out. Now, while we're talking about property taxes, I want to jump into real estate. The median home price here in the Houston, Texas area is lower than the national median average home price of the nation. With that, I can kind of see that because one of the reasons why me and my wife moved here to Houston was because we wanted to get more bang for our buck when buying a home. And that's exactly what we did. When moving from Virginia here to Texas, and yes, I am a Virginia native at heart, I moved from Virginia. When we moved, that is one of the reasons I wanted to be able to buy a nice house for a lower price. And that is exactly what I was able to do. So if that sounds like something that interests you, go ahead and shoot me a text. So I'll be able to help you out for sure. Okay, so here's the third thing that you need to know about when moving to the Houston, Texas area. And this is so important because depending on where you work, it's depending on where you live, right? And it's extremely important. And I cannot stress the importance of it. But the job market here in the Houston, Texas area is extremely phenomenal, okay? And I say that because Houston has experienced steady growth over the last few years, particularly in the energy and healthcare and the technology sectors. So if that falls into your category, that's something to really think about. Houston is also known as the energy capital of the world, and it is also home to a lot of or many different oil and gas companies, even the bigger contenders such as Exxon, Chevron, and I think I'm missing one. I'm not 100% sure the name, but Houston's home to those companies. So if you work in an oil and gas field or you want to work in an oil and gas field, Houston could possibly be on your radar, and it's something to really think about. Okay, let's jump into the medical field. There's a lot of people who work in the medical field. Okay, let's jump into the medical field. Before I tell you all about Houston, Texas, I kind of want to tell you about where I live. Okay, I live in Conroe, right here above the Woodlands, Texas. And you have here in a 10-minute span, we have 4 different hospitals. We have Conroe Hospital, Texas Children's, Methodist, and Memorial Hermann Hospital. And that's insane to think about. Because where I come from, you had to drive 40 minutes to the closest hospital. We have 4 in a 10-minute drive from where I'm at the moment. And that's just me being generous. I'm 100% sure that it's a lot closer. I just want to make sure I'm giving y'all the facts. I just haven't Google Map how far Memorial Hermann is from where I'm at. But the hospital here in Conroe is directly across the street from where I'm at the moment. So if you work in the medical field, not only is Houston going to be easy for you to find a job, but the suburbs as well. Now, Houston is home to the Texas Medical Center, which is not only the nation, but the world's largest medical center, which, if you didn't know, offers a very wide and vast range of employment opportunities for a lot of people working in the medical field. So again, if that's you and you work in the medical field, Houston might be on your radar because I know a lot of people that work in the medical field, and I know a lot of people moving here that work in the medical field. And there's a lot of opportunity, let's be honest. Now, for the people who are smarter than I am, your aeronautic people, your aerospace people, guess what? We have a spot here for you, right here in the Houston area. On the south side of Houston the south side of Houston is home to the Johnson Space Center, which, by the way, if you don't know, is NASA. So yes, if you work in the aeronautical field, aerospace field, or whatever it is, when it comes to those industries, we have a place here for you. With all this being said, no matter what it is that you do, there's a place right here in Houston, Texas for you. But you need to be educated because you do not want to, get a job that's an hour and a half away from where you're going to work. So stay educated when it comes to the job market and where things are right here in the Houston, Texas area. Now, with that being said, we're going to jump into number 4. Number 4 is one of the most complained about things here in the Houston, Texas area. And when I say complained about, it's the people that live here that complain about it the most. For those of you that's watching this video and you live out there in Wisconsin, New York, or Michigan, and wherever else you are, you don't know, but you're about to learn, okay? And that's the traffic. When I moved here, I knew that traffic was going to be an issue, but I didn't really realize how much there is. So as you look at the city of Houston, if obviously you see I'm up here on the south side of Conroe, which is where my office is located. But I kind of just want to give you a brief overview of the city of Houston and all of the major roadways and contenders when it comes to this traffic, okay? So you have I-45, which runs north all the way down here to south that goes to Galveston Island. This is a major interstate, and it's full when it comes to traffic. It is a very large player when it comes to getting people in and out of Houston. But you also have I-10, which runs east to west in Houston. It cuts straight through the middle, just like I-45. And again, another major contender on getting people in and out of the city. You also have I-69, which if you ask a local that lives, Splendora, Cleveland, New Caney, any of these areas, this is Highway 59, which just was upgraded not too long ago to I-69, but it runs again through the center of Houston, through downtown, and it comes down here to Sugarland and Rosenberg. Okay. So with that being said, those are like the major roadways going in and through the city. But let's talk about the roadways that go around the city. Starting closest to downtown, you have 610, which is a beltway that runs around. This is not a tollway, and this is important because Houston does have quite a few different toll roads running in and around Houston. But 610 is not a tollway, which means it's going to have more traffic on it from the get-go. Okay. But a lot of people will take, 10 in and they'll take 610 around to get on 45 and go north, especially your truck drivers. 610 runs around, and then on the outside of 610, you have Beltway 8, which is right here. It goes through Channelview, up here south of Spring, Jersey Village, Missouri City. But the thing about 8, or what we call as Beltway 8, is it is a toll road. But it is a very commonly used road. So let's say I'm leaving Conroe and I want to go, over here to Missouri City. Instead of going through downtown Houston, I'm taking Beltway 8 around to Missouri City. So it is a more heavily used roadway here in the Houston area, but it is another option. You just kind of you have to pay for it. And then the next one that is on the outside is Highway 99. Guys, this is a newer highway that opened up not long ago. Let me take that back. They just finished this section here that leads way out here towards Mont Bellevue, and I probably butchered the name of that, but that's okay. And Baytown, this area here. All this is brand new. They just opened this like 3 years ago. This section here is more common, more new, or not more common. It is a older section of highway. Now, 99 is a tollway. That does not stop people from using it. And I need you to really understand that. That does not stop people from using it. Because when you look at your rush hour traffic times, which are 6:30 to 9 in the morning and your 4:30 to 7 in the evening, give or take, it just depends on the area. These roadways get very heavy with traffic, right? Because you got people leaving Houston, going into Houston for second shift. Just depends on the time of day, right? It gets crazy. So I'm gonna start up here where I'm at, okay? I'm up here in Conroe. So if you live anywhere north of where this blue dot is, you typically during your rush hour traffic times, you're gonna run into some traffic on the south side of Conroe. It typically will lighten up until you get down here towards the Spring area, and then once you get south of the Spring area, it lightens up again until you get farther into Houston. So again, you really have to watch out for this space right here and right in this area. So now, when it comes to Houston, honestly, it just depends. Depends on the day, depends on the time. I've been stuck down in here, and it's taken me 2 hours to go from, our colony all the way to Conroe, 2.5 hours because of traffic. But then I've also been in rush hour traffic, and it takes me an hour. So it just depends on how lucky you really get. There are some sections right here in the Houston area, as you can see as I zoom in here. There are some sections that get very congested, especially with these splits onto 610 right here, 69 to 610, 45 to 610, 10 to 49, 10 to 69, 10 to 610. These big intersections that you see here, they get backed up, and they get backed up quick. So that's a lot of where your traffic is coming from. Now, I know I spoke about 610. 610 is another one of those interstates that's just kind of hit or miss. Depending on the day, depending on the hour, it's depending on the traffic. You might get lucky and it might take you 20 minutes to get home from work, or you might not get lucky and it takes you an hour and a half. I'm not able to tell you because I don't know, because I've drove through some of these areas and was thoroughly shocked that I got home or got to where I was going so quickly. So it just depends. But again, 610 is a very heavily used interstate. So can't really say much about that. 10 is the same way as 45. Now, I'm not as educated on where these heavy spots are on 610, but I can only imagine, because people are coming from Houston, going home to Katy. There are some master plan communities, major master plan communities out here that people live in. Bridgeland, you got some like right here, one here, you got Town Lake, you got some up here in Hockley. People are traveling to these master plan communities, hundreds of people. So traffic is going to happen for sure. So 610 gets pretty backed up. And then once you get out here towards Channelview and whatnot, that gets backed up as well during those heavier times of days or rush hour traffic, whatever you want to call it. Highway A, it's a little bit lighter than 610, but it can still be typically a little bit heavier than what you expect, especially with it being a tollway. During those rush hour traffics, it's hit or miss, guys. It really is. That's all I have to say about it. 99, you are typically pretty good with 99. It does get heavy. So if you're expecting to do 100 on 99, this is not going to happen, especially during rush hour traffic. I don't advise you to do 100 miles an hour anyway, but that's just me. But you will see a heavy amount of traffic, but typically it will flow at a pretty good speed around Houston. So you really don't have to worry too much there. Now, with all of this being said, if there's an accident, there's going to be traffic. Accidents happen. Take me with a grain of salt when it comes to that. Because I have seen some accidents happen, especially on 45 and I-10, that have shut down the interstate, and people have shut down the interstate, and people have sat for 2-3 hours waiting for these accidents to be cleaned up. So just take me with a grain of salt. Okay, traffic is definitely a reason why you should educate yourself, right? You want to make sure you're in a place that is in best interest for you and your family. Now, with that being said, before I tell you number 5, if you're thinking about moving right here to Houston, go ahead and send me a text. Give me a call. I help people every single day. And with that being said, make sure you have somebody on your team who's going to give you the facts, give you the truth about these places, right? If you don't want to be around traffic, you need to tell us, you need to tell whoever it is that's representing you. But reach out to me. I would be more than happy to help. Phone number's right here. You can send me an email, which is down in the bio. Either one, reach out. I'd be more than happy to help. But number 5, the one you have been waiting for the most, and that's the weather. Now, I just want to go ahead and say, in this season that we are in, there has been a lot of storms that have hit the Houston, Texas area, and there has been a lot of people that think that Houston, Texas is underwater, and tornadoes and hurricanes just strike us every other day. With that being said, this video is being recorded as a tropical storm is in the Gulf of Mexico, and I do not have a single worry at all. Okay? Now, before we get into the major storms and all those things that you are probably curious about, the winters here in Houston are typically around the 60s, high 50s, low 60s. The summers are kind of brutal, not going to lie. They get up in the high 90s. Sometimes they can cross into triple digits. The feel like temp can get up there 110, 115. But the thing that really gets people is the humidity, guys. You wake up, you go outside, and it's 80, 90% humidity, just like it was this morning. And you are covered in sweat, okay? And that's the thing. But drink a lot of water, take a lot of showers, you'll be just fine. I promise. I came from cold temperatures. I love this heat. My bones don't ache because when I get cold, my joints start aching. They don't ache anymore, guys. I love it here. Now let's talk about hurricanes. Hurricane season is from June to November, and just like a lot of Florida people in Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, the places around the Gulf and even the East Coast, we do have the ability to have a hurricane, just like Hurricane Harvey hit Houston. But with that being said, you just have to prep yourself, okay? It's not every other day. Last year, they said that last year we was going to have the worst hurricane season to date, and we didn't have one single hurricane hit the Houston area. We had rain from a hurricane, but that was it. But with that rain, didn't even come any flooding that I remember. So it's not even every single year that we get hit with hurricanes. So I don't really stress. And even with that, if you don't want to be hit by a hurricane, you don't want to have to deal with it, all the flooding, or whatever it is, right? Then move somewhere that you'd have a less chance of getting hit by one, like the north side of Houston. I live in Conroe. Yes, if a hurricane hits Houston, I am prepared. I will probably lose electricity, possibly for 2 or 3 days, depending on the severity of the hurricane. But I don't have to deal with it like my family does, or some of my family, my wife's family, who is in South Houston. They are closer to the Gulf. They have to deal with more rain, more wind, more of the hurricane. Okay, so just prep yourself and educate yourself and move to a place that you don't have to deal with it if that's something that highly worries you. Okay, now with that being said, let's talk about the hurricanes that happen on land, aka the tornadoes. Guys, I've lived here for 3 years and I have never seen a tornado. Now, let me repeat that. I have lived here for 3 years and I have never seen a tornado. I have heard about two. One of them hit Cypress, and one of them was in a field way, west of where I live at the moment, not even in Houston. A few weeks ago or months ago, however long it was, there's a lot of social media saying that a tornado hit downtown Houston. That's false. That is 100% false. That was just heavy winds, right? We have thunderstorms, and to be honest, when thunderstorms hit, they are, thunder and lightning, it happens, right? But we don't get tornadoes like the TikTok and the Facebook and the Instagram say we do. Okay, so if you're on TikTok and you see something like that, just take it with a grain of salt. I've lived here for 3 years. My wife's family has lived here for a great all of their life, and they have never seen tornadoes. This isn't Kansas City. Okay, this isn't Nebraska. This is Texas, and not only is it Texas, this is South Texas, Southeast Texas. We don't see things like that. Not saying it can't happen. It doesn't happen every day, guys. It just doesn't happen. Okay. And then last but not least, flooding. Again, we've had a lot of thunderstorms lately. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it to y'all. We have had a lot of thunderstorms. To be completely honest, it's actually thundering outside right now. As I speak, it is thundering and lightning and raining. With that being said, I'm not worried about it. A lot of people think that when these thunderstorms roll in, the whole city of Houston and all of its suburbs go underwater, and that's just not the case, okay? There are a lot of homes that have never flooded. With that being said, there are homes that have flooded, and that's why you need a good real estate agent on your team to be able to tell you, like, look, this house hasn't flooded in 10 years, but it has the possibility. Or, hey, John, guess what? This house is in a flood zone. Do you still want to pursue it? And that's when you have the opportunity to say yes or no. So it's completely up to you. Um, and just to kind of give you an example, I've lived here for 3 years, haven't really seen a lot of flooding. This year, I have seen a good deal. I live up here in the Conroe area, and there are a few places that have flooded. But with this, you just need a real estate agent on your team who knows the area. If if you come to me, you want to buy a house on the south side of Lake Conroe, there's a good chance that you might fall into a floodplain, right? Because the dam for Lake Conroe is on the south side. You need an agent that is knowledgeable enough to know things like that, because when it rains and the Lake Conroe starts filling, they release the dam. When they release the dam, the river that it's in starts to overflow and homes start to flood. And there are certain places, certain communities along that river that are more prone to flooding than others. So again, all of this being said, just have a real estate agent, whether it's me or anyone else, have a real estate agent on your side who's going to be knowledgeable enough to know these things and to check for these things. Okay. With all of that being said, I moved here from the state of Virginia to live in Houston, and I haven't doubted it. I haven't complained not one bit. I love it. I love everything about it. But these are 5 things that you really need to make sure you know about, especially the last 2, before making the move. There's people that you can put on your team, such as myself, to make the move a lot smoother and easier for you and your family. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of it, go ahead and click this video. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.